Welcome into another edition of Fourth Quarter Clutch. Today we're talking hot topics, and of course, with the Super Bowl coming up, you have to start with the Super Bowl. And the Super Bowl will be played on Sunday, unless there's some bizarre weather change by Sunday. Otherwise, they'll probably change it to another day. And of course, in the Super Bowl, it's the Seattle Seahawks versus the Denver Broncos, but no one's really talking about that. Everyone's talking about Richard Sherman and Peyton Manning. So, of course, Peyton Manning is one of the greatest quarterbacks to play the game. So we have to talk about Peyton Manning. And Brian, what does Peyton Manning have to do in order to be the consensus greatest quarterback of all time?
Okay, for me, this comes down to this Super Bowl right here, actually. Um, it comes down to his performance in this Super Bowl this week. I mean, you can talk about a lot of these other quarterbacks that have like incredible playoff runs, like Tom Brady, who has three Super Bowls. He's got a resume as long as some guys' rap sheets. It's crazy. It's crazy. Okay, but when it comes down to it, no one has really ever played in a Super Bowl like this before. And actually had a solid performance. I mean, we got wind concerns that are gonna be crazy. We got snow problems. We got the cold. We have Seattle, the number one defense in the entire NFL this year. Okay, This is like the biggest challenge for any quarterback in the history of NFL, basically, for a Super Bowl. Okay, so I have to say, if he has an amazing performance, which to me is at least 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and with this defense, probably 250 yards. So if he has an amazing performance like that in facing all these different concerns, weather problems, amazing defense, I mean, Super Bowl, big stage, everything, to me that says he could be the consensus greatest quarterback of all time.
I think for me, it'll take a little bit more just because of Peyton Manning's playoff record. He doesn't have the greatest playoff record. He's 11 no wait, he's 12 and 11 in the playoffs, which
Mm-hmm.
is a pretty good record. It's not a great record, but it's pretty good. Tom
Mm-hmm.
Brady is 18 and 8 in the playoffs, and I think they're right now entering the Super Bowl. There are two quarterbacks ahead of Peyton Manning, Tom Brady and Joe Montana. And you can put them whatever order you want. You can have Joe Montana ahead of Tom Brady. You can have Tom Brady ahead
Mm-hmm.
of Joe Montana. Right now, they're both ahead of Peyton Manning in my mind. I think Tom
Yeah.
Brady is above of Joe Montana because I'm a little bit more impressed with what Tom Brady has done. And as I told you earlier, Joe Montana, he had 4 touchdowns in 2 Super Bowls prior to Jerry Rice joining the 49ers. When Jerry Rice joined the 49ers in the other 2 Super Bowls, he had 7 touchdowns and almost 700 passing yards. In the first 2 Super Bowls, he had a little bit more. He had a little bit less than 500 passing yards. So Jerry Rice obviously helped him
Yeah.
perform much better. We can't argue that. You can say
No
whatever
what?
you want about Tom Brady. They're both great quarterbacks. Joe Montana 11-0 touchdown to interception ratio in 4 Super Bowls, which is really impressive. Tom Brady in
Mm-hmm.
5 Super Bowls, 9 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. And you can say it can be debatable, but if David Tyree does not make that insane catch, which is probably a once in a lifetime Super Bowl catch, the Tom Brady would have 4 Super Bowl rings. But obviously, that's a what if scenario. We don't discuss what if scenario. We discuss actual scenario, which is Tom
Absolutely.
Brady having 3 Super Bowl rings at the end of the
Yep.
Super Bowl.
Yep.
And so for me, Peyton Manning in the 2 previous Super Bowls, he was an average performer. He played the Bears in 2006 and in Super Bowl XLI. And the Bears had a pretty good defense. Their offense was terrible. They had Grossman at quarterback, who was probably one of the worst Super Bowl quarterbacks in Super Bowl history. And then he
Mm-hmm.
played the Saints, and being this and losing to the Saints, he wasn't really that great. He threw a touchdown, he threw an interception, he had 333 passing yards, And you would think that the Saints had a really bad defense. You would think that he would have at least 2, 3 touchdowns. He only had one. So I'm not really that impressed with what he did in that Super Bowl. And also, if you look at playoff stats and all this other stuff, Tom Brady has better playoff stats than Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning has better regular season stats. So
A 100%, absolutely.
in my mind, if Peyton Manning has, I wouldn't even say 3 touchdowns. I would say if he has 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and at least 250 passing yards. I don't even care if they win the Super Bowl or lose the Super Bowl. I think that would jump him ahead of Joe Montana. I think in order for him to be ahead of Tom Brady, he would have to have one more Super Bowl performance like that. I don't care who it's against, but one more Super Bowl performance like that. Skip Bayless was talking about on ESPN First Take early in the week that you can say the Bears in difficulty out of scale of 1 to 10 was probably a 4 or a 5. New Orleans Saints was probably a 5 or a 6 just because of Drew Brees. The Seattle
Hmm.
Seahawks with probably one of the greatest defenses of all time. You can put them up there with the 85 Bears, the Steel Curtain. There are so many great defenses. The Ravens in the early 2000s
Yep.
that it's probably at anywhere between a 7 and an 8 just because their offense is not as dynamic as Drew Brees had or
Yeah.
Tom Brady had or all these other offenses. But it's a really, really difficult game.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so that's my feeling on it. I don't really care much about what Tom Brady's coach was. I don't care with what Peyton Manning's coach is. Any quarterback that could lead 2 different teams to a Super Bowl and win with 2 different teams deserves to be at worst #2 greatest quarterback of all time.
Yeah, I have to totally agree with that. The inconsistency of organizations definitely to me gives Peyton Manning a little bit more of an edge than Tom Brady. When you're coming into work for 10, 15 years and you have the exact same head coach every single year, the same organization, the same, I mean, you know pretty much what to expect as far as like who you're dealing with, your comfort level. I mean, there isn't a lot of changeover. I mean, with Peyton Manning, he changed to a totally different organization. He changed coaches several times in Indy. I mean, and he still was a fantastic quarterback for them. Not only that, but then he also had, I mean, let's face it, Indy really wasn't defense oriented at all when he was there. He had some pretty bad defenses that he had to sort of compensate a little bit for on the other side of the ball. Whereas the Patriots have been a little bit more smart, have been a little smarter about their defensive options. They have Vince Wilfork. They had Mike Vrabel. I mean, they have Aqib Talib now. I mean, they're a huge, very, very balanced team, and over the years have done a lot better job as far as having both sides of the ball be pretty strong. Whereas in Indy, they didn't really have that. But we got to say something about Denver's defense this year because they are extremely underrated, and it's mostly because Seattle's been such an amazing defense that the Broncos defense hasn't gotten a lot of talk.
As Stephen A. Smith would say on ESPN First Take, the media or anyone talking or discussion about the Denver Broncos defense is so disrespectful because their defense, because let's be honest, Peyton Manning can only do so much against the New England Patriots defense. Someone had to stop Tom Brady's offense, and that somebody was the Denver Broncos defense. And you could say that, yes, he had Julian Edelman and Aaron Dobson and Shane Vereen and LeGarrette Blount, and the list goes on and on and on. But at the end of the day, the Denver Broncos defense made Tom Brady's life a living hell. Because they rushed him.
It's crazy.
They rushed him. They did a great job rushing him. They did a great job shutting down the receivers. And Tom Brady didn't score a touchdown until the fourth quarter. I don't know any other time in Tom Brady's history where he does not score a touchdown until the fourth quarter. It must have been at least 5-6 years ago where it takes him that long. And this is a playoff game, which is normally Tom Brady time. So Denver Broncos defense, by far, really impressive. Here are some stats which makes the Denver Broncos defense really good. I'm not going to say as good as Seattle Seahawks defense because that's just crazy. But In the playoffs, they played the San Diego Chargers with Philip Rivers, who had a breakout year, and they played Tom Brady, who it doesn't really matter who Tom Brady has. He's going to look like a really good quarterback every single year.
Mm-hmm.
They held the both offenses to 32 total first downs. 32, which is 16 a game, which some teams are normally able to get 32 in one game. That's a staggering stat.
Yeah,
Total
so in the
rushing yards.
playoffs, these are pretty even teams, defenses, as far as points allowed, which
Oh,
is really
exactly.
what it comes down to.
Total rushing yards allowed 129.
Yeah,
129, which is really impressive. I don't care who the running backs are for the other teams. That is a really impressive stat. Total offensive yards 579. And
yeah,
and my favorite stat of all, which shows that they're being really disrespected. 4 touchdowns allowed. Not 4 in one game. 4 in the playoffs.
yeah. Totally agree. And not only that, but they only gave up 64 yards of rushing to the Patriots in their last game, okay? And that was a Patriots offense that scored 3 touchdowns on the Colts the week before. So it was like one week they had like 250, 300 yards rushing, and then the next or 200 yards rushing, and then the next week 64. Like, that's just insane, okay? That is ridiculous.
As
With the
much
way that they were going in the first game, and then they just nothing the second game. Like,
Oh,
wow.
absolutely. As much as we could talk about the Super Bowl all day, there is something
Yeah.
else that is really, really big in the news. And that is that Major League Baseball is going to have players, they can't force players to wear protective caps because the players union obviously has a big say, but
Yep.
they have approved of pitchers protective caps. And in case you have not seen the picture, you can check on Google, or you can check on ESPN.com, or there'll be a picture up when this video is posted. It
Yep.
is a little bit bigger than the average hat for a pitcher. It is a little bit heavier. It is 7 pounds heavier than 7 ounces heavier than the average.
That's a big difference.
It is a big difference. It's going to be warmer. It's going to protect the pitchers up to 90 mile per hour line drives on for frontal, and on the side it'll protect up to 85 miles per hour. And there have been 5 pitchers since four pitchers since Brandon McCarthy suffered a really
Mm-hmm.
really bad
Serious
injury.
injury, yeah.
There have been 4 pitchers. Mickey Story of the Astros on September 12th, 2012. Doug Fister on October 25th, 2012.
Mm-hmm.
J.A. Happ on May 7th in 2013, and Alex Cobb on June 15th in 2013.
Yep.
And Brandon McCarthy, the one who suffered probably the most serious injury of all of them, he had a life-threatening brain contusion, epidural hemorrhage, skull fracture, he had brain surgery. This is all according to ESPN. And he said that he does not think the cap is major league ready. He thinks it's too big. He thinks it's too hot. He thinks it doesn't fit quite right. It doesn't feel quite right. And he has said that he will not wear the cap. But Clayton Kershaw, a two-time Cy Young winner, said that he's not opposed to it. Brian, what are your thoughts on this monumental news?
I think this is really a step in the right direction for pitchers. Actually, it's been a long time since these injuries actually started. These comeback line drives have been real serious concerns, and pitchers have been getting hurt from line drives for a long time, but they haven't actually had any kind of protective gear for their head in order to actually protect that for a long time here. They've been exploring it, they've been working on it, but it hasn't been something hasn't actually been ruled out for this. So the fact that they've actually taken quite a while to do this, to actually get it into the possibility of manufacturing it and getting it to the players, I mean, that says to me that they've done a good job of assessing what needs to be done, how they can do it right, and then putting it into practice in the right way. so that because health concerns, especially for pitchers in the league, is a big deal. I mean, these guys have surgery, many surgeries on their arms, on those kinds of things, but they don't think about the protection of them for line drives until just the last several years, when a lot of these injuries have been a lot more likely and have happened a lot more. The Alex Cobb one most recently has been one of the ones that really started to kick things into high gear. But for me, this is a huge step in the right direction for pitchers and for protecting pitchers. I mean, when you think about it, the every single batter who walks up there nowadays, they've got a helmet, they've got a leg protection. I mean. Even the catcher's got a ton of protection. Even the umpire behind him has a mask and a chest protector, everything. But the pitcher has nothing. All he's got is his glove. I mean, he doesn't even have like any padding or anything like that. But he's also in serious danger of a line drive like that. You've got to get some protection for him for pitchers. So I totally agree that this is a good step in the right direction. But as McCarthy said, there could be some little things to tweak here and there, and I definitely think this will be helpful in the playoffs for pitchers because of the cold weather. This will keep them a little warmer too.
And also, a quick thing to note that's kind of interesting is that they said up to 90 miles per hour it'll protect them.
Yeah.
This is according to ESPN. Greg Rybarczyk, I'm sorry if I botched the name. His last name spelled Rybarczyk. He's the creator of ESPN Home Run Tracker, and he said that the speeds of line drives can strike pitchers at more than 100 miles per hour. And an example he gave was in 2006, Vladimir Guerrero hit a line drive at 107, 108 miles per hour, and it struck Rafael Soriano, and he suffered a concussion. So obviously there are going to be some flaws, but it's part of sports where there has to be some kind of danger. Otherwise, it's not exciting. In football, there's going to always be some danger of concussions, no matter how many safety measures you take or the helmets or anything like that. In basketball, there'll always be risk of torn ACLs, no matter what you do. In any sport, there'll always be risk. So that's part of the game. And the best thing Major League Baseball is doing, which I think is a really good thing, is that they're at least trying to protect the pitchers, because the pitchers are the most exposed players. And if for anyone, because there will be critics out there saying, oh, but this won't fit well, or this is MLB is getting soft and not trying to make the game as exciting. Well, almost 70 years ago, there used to be no helmets for hitters. They used to just have caps on.
Yep.
And there was one player that was killed because he was hit in the head. And there were probably people at the time that were saying, oh, but helmets are going to make the game less entertaining and other.
They're not going to feel like right or whatever, yeah.
And it'll take time, but I think the best thing that can happen is that you have them start with it in spring training. Don't have them start regular season because it'll affect their stats and everything like that. Start in spring training. You could do it in the games. The players will get used to it. It'll probably take maybe 5 to 10 games for them to get used to it. Have them wear it during practice. Have them wear it during scrimmages. Have it wearing during anything. And eventually it'll become natural. It'll be like a hat for them.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also you gotta talk about the idea that, I mean, it's optional. So it's not like it's being required by MLB at this point. And, I mean, that's a step so that players can decide whether or not they want to wear it. Which is, I mean, and as long as they're not, like, being ridiculed or something for that, it's a safety measure. I mean, and a lot of these guys would be really smart to do it because it would probably lengthen their career if they're, it would really seriously cut down on their career if they get seriously injured in the head by a line drive or something. So for these pitchers, it's a smart decision and a good thing to do.
If I was Brandon McCarthy, I wouldn't be not only wearing that pad or that protected cap. I would be the first one in line telling Bud Selig, I need it now. I had a life-threatening brain contusion. I had epidural hemorrhage. I had a skull fracture. I need it now. He should be the first one in line. He shouldn't be wearing it. He should be the first one in line. He should be the first one calling Bud Selig saying I need it. He shouldn't
You
be
should be promoting it.
it isn't Major League ready. Oh, it's too big. It's too hot. That's the sacrifices you're going to have to make for safety. There are
Yeah.
always sacrifices you have to make in order for the players to be safe. You could call it
Yep.
softening up the sport, or there are other terms on the internet I won't use for softening up a sport, but you have to protect the players. The players come first, and then the fans come second. That's the way it
Yeah.
should be. That's the way it's always been.
And it's the same thing with the NFL when they started flagging players for helmet to helmet contact or leading with your head. It's to cut down on concussions and serious injuries. It's not like they're trying to cut down any of the entertainment of the game. They're trying to make it safer for these players so they can play longer and enjoy their career and not be seriously injured, to try to avoid some of these serious injuries. That's really what it comes down to.
Oh, of course. And for anyone that thinks that they're softening up, that's like saying that's like saying, oh, let's take away the backstop behind home plate, and let's make it interesting seeing what players get hit by what fans get hit by foul balls. I mean, you have to protect everyone at the game, and that's what they're
Yep.
doing, and I totally approve of it. Not only do I approve of it, there's a double thumbs up of consent from Noah Weintraub.
Anytime you got an object going 90 miles an hour or more, you gotta throw in some safety measures. Totally agree with that.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you for tuning in to another edition of Fourth Quarter Clutch. We will have plenty of more articles coming up, and we will have some weekly articles that we are calling specials. They're being determined. One of them will be weekly sucks to suck, which will be the player that has one of the worst games of the week that could be deemed laughable, and I will explain that later on. And Brian Zeigler will be working on some kind of edition of the Clutch Player of the Week, which will be a player that does something outstanding that you
Yep.
will remember for weeks to come. And of course, the Super Bowl's on Sunday. Be safe. Don't do anything you'll regret. And if you're going to the game, dress warm. Don't be that person like at the Philadelphia Eagles game that sits in a hot tub and has nothing on except for a bathing suit. Don't be that guy, or don't be like the person at the Packers game that is wearing pretty much nothing but face painting or a shirt. Be smart, and if it's a blizzard, stay indoors and just have fun. Brian, do you have anything else to say?
That pretty much wraps it up. But yeah, let's keep it safe for this one. I don't think we're going to be seeing any rioting in the streets with these temps. Just saying that right now.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you for tuning in to another edition of Fourth Quarter Clutch. Have fun with the Super Bowl, and tune in because we will have an NFL free agent preview video coming out in 2 weeks.